In the last segment, you learned how to create a fluted column. In this segment, you're going to learn how to create a capital, the top of the column, and a base for the column. Let's begin again by going to the top view. We made our original column with a radius of 2.5 feet. We're going to make a circle that is a little larger than that. We'll start to pull out the circle and we'll type in 3 feet. That's 3 apostrophe enter. Notice that shows up down here. Just a reminder, when you're drawing a circle, I'm going to undo that. When you're drawing a circle, you click on the circle tool and release your mouse button. You click on the area where you want to begin to draw the circle. Hold your mouse button down, drag out the circle, release your button, and immediately type in the size of the radius you want. So I want 3 feet, enter. I'm going to zoom in. I'll use the wheel on my mouse button to zoom in. Pan so that I can center this. And I'm going to use the orbit tool so that I am seeing part of the circle from the top and slightly from a side. I need to find the center of this circle. I can try taking the line tool and pulling a line toward what I think is the center. When I click on the tool, I'm not clicking my mouse button down. I'm just hovering over the edge of the circle, and I'm hovering again, drawing. Now that I've found the center, I'm going to click down, and I'm going to hold my mouse button down, and I'm going to pull a line. Now the line color on the screen is green. Green is the wrong direction. I need to move my mouse around until I see a blue line, because I want the line to be going straight up in the air on the blue axis. So I'm going to pull up the line. I'm going to pull it up to about 5 feet. Again, I can just type in 5 feet, enter. Hit escape to get out of the line tool. Orbit slightly more. Choose the line tool again. Click the top of the line I just drew and release my button. Click the edge of the circle, any endpoint, click and release. Click and release. Now, I want to show you what would happen if I did not do anything else to this shape. I'm going to choose the select tool and select the edge of the circle, and then I'm going to choose the follow me tool, which is this one. If your follow me tool is not showing, you can go to the tools column and select follow me there. When I click on that shape, it becomes a cone shape because that triangle has followed itself around the circle. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to orbit slightly. I want to draw a line across this shape so that I will be creating sort of a low bowl shape. Again, let me show what I was doing there. I'm taking the line tool and drawing a line across the shape, directly across a straight line. Take the select tool and delete this top area. Delete that line, delete that line. Select the edge of the circle and use my follow me tool, or go to the tools column, choose follow me there. Now I have a shape that's similar to the top of the simplest kind of column. I want to make this into a component, so I'll select the whole area and make component. I'll call this capital. And I want to go to the front view at this point. I have my capital, but it's upside down. So I could use the rotate tool and flip it, but since this is a component, I can also go to Edit, Component, and one of the choices is Flip. And this allows me to choose which direction I want to flip it. I want to flip it top to bottom, and that's up and down, so that's the blue component. And that's the quickest way to flip correctly. Now I want to shape this component a little bit, so I'm going to orbit. Notice that my component does not have a top to it. So I'm going to draw a line. Actually, I need to open it first. Double click to open my component. When you open a component, the surrounding box changes from blue to this dotted black line. I'm going to draw a line across the top circle, end to end, and that makes a top part. Now I can use the eraser tool to erase that line, and even though I've erased the line, the top part stays there. So now I have a closed form. I'm going to use my push-pull tool to pull this down into a sort of an interesting shape, and I'll pull it down about 12 inches. Now I can decorate this shape more. Zooming in, I'm going to draw along some of these edges while the component is open. I'm going to draw a line down here and a line down here. Notice that when it's the same length, I have a dotted line that's appearing, so that tells me that I've made them the same length. Now I'm going to take the arc tool and I'm going to connect those 2 points and click and pull my arc down on the face. So I have this U shape. I'll also draw a line across the top so that now I have a shape that can be selected. I'm going to orbit around. I'm going to do something similar to what we did when we were making the fluted column. I'm going to use the rotate tool, find the center of that circle, and if it's a little hard to find the center, if you can't find it, it seems to be snapping there, you can draw a line across again, straight across, and now when you choose the rotate tool, it will find the center point there, midpoint of the line. So I click and release my mouse button. I have that shape selected, click and release on the midpoint of that shape. Hold my control key down, drag a copy all the way around until I'm right next to the original, and then slash, and I'm going to try 20 copies and see if that works. 20 copies leaves a little space between. Let's try 22. 22 more nearly matches. Let's try 24. There. What I was looking for was to see if I would get one of those shapes in each one of those boxes, and 24 seems to have worked pretty well. Alright, so now I can close my component. I can erase, oops, open up again. I want to erase that line, so I don't need that line anymore. Now I can close my component. Okay, so now I have a shape and form that looks like it would make a nice capital for my column. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to make a copy of this whole thing. It is a component, so I can click on it, hold the control key down and the move key, and just pull a copy over. And I want to turn one of these upside down. If I just hit Edit Component, it will turn both of them upside down. Watch, if I Edit Component, flip along blue. It just, with this one alone selected, it only flipped that one. Okay? So this is going to be the base of my column. I can move this over, and I want to put it underneath my column. And it's not quite big enough, so I can use the scale tool to pull it out until it's a little bit bigger than my column is. I want to make sure that this is actually underneath my column, so I'll orbit around and see. Okay, it's a little to one side here, so I'm going to need to move it that way a little. Keep orbiting to make sure it's centered. It's a little bit that way. Again, keep orbiting. As you orbit, just make whatever movements you need to make to get the thing lined up perfectly under your column. Almost there. Okay, when it looks to be just about perfect, oops, I'm going to orbit again. I'll need to raise this a little bit because there's a little space between the columns. So I'll raise it up and just check. Alright, so I have a nice base for my column. I would do the same thing for the top. I'll click on this component. I'm going to zoom way out because I have to move up to the top of my screen. And I'm going to move this using the move tool up in the air. Up in the air is along the blue axis. Watch the color of this dotted line underneath the object. While it's blue, watch the line that appears down there. While that line is blue, you're moving up in the air. If it's any other color, you're moving in another direction. Okay, so now I want to move sideways. Oops, we're not quite high enough. Go up in the air some more. Alright. Now I can hit front view, or I can just orbit and pan. Zoom in a little bit more. I need to scale this. Make it a little bit bigger. Move it into position just the same way that you did for the base. Just keep orbiting until you see where it needs to be. Basically, you want it centered over that column. When it's centered over the column, use your move tool to move it down. And zoom out and check. Pretty good. So now we have a column that has a fluted column and a base and a capital. This is the most simple kind of column. This would be a Doric column, D-O-R-I-C, Doric column.